Ladies and gentlemen, hit subscribe to this channel right now. The official ruling, which has essentially already taken place, has to be tomorrow. Trump will get at least partial presidential constitutional immunity. I'll be 2 for 2. I'll be 3 for 3 soon in Supreme Court predictions. The first one was overturning of the absurd Colorado ban by the Supreme Court. That's the first prediction I made. That was 100% accurate. Tomorrow, we will see that Trump gets a huge, historic constitutional victory over the special counsel and over Biden's administration with at least partial immunity. He did so well tonight, Trump. Trump did so well tonight against mashed potato brains. And we'll talk about that in a contest on CNN. And it was really embarrassing for the current occupant in the Oval Office. We'll get to that. The third major victory will be the absurd, unconstitutional guilty verdict that really, mashed potato brains didn't get any political traction tonight. And so, has to be tomorrow. But the third prediction, and you will hear from legal scholars, you'll hear from some pundits on the contest tonight on CNN. But it was really, Trump demolished mashed potato brains. It was really unbelievable. But the third major victory, ladies and gentlemen, will be the unconstitutional guilty verdict overturned. Tonight was a case study in Democrats losing miserably on a global and world and national stage. Trump was eloquent, he was composed, he was poised. He tried his best not to make too many waves, but, there was one moment where mashed potato brains froze, and unfortunately we knew that was going to happen. Pedophilia, hello! Ain't no future in your front, and that's right. Ha ha ha! Thanks for being a member of this channel, Pedophilia, and to my viewers around the world, in Australia, in the UK, Canada, the Philippines. I love the Philippines, New Zealand, everywhere around the world, Nigeria, Korea. Thank you so very Nepal. Thank you so very much for watching. Tomorrow has to be the day for the immunity decision. This is the Washington Post. Make America Great Again. Justices already gave Trump de facto immunity and disgraced the court. Yeah, well, you know what? They didn't disgrace the court. Upholding democracy is the Supreme Court's, I should say, deciding, and we have to have the Supreme Court upholding the Constitution. Okay, it's really funny when Democrats are upset at the Supreme Court when they lose in the Supreme Court. So they will lose miserably tomorrow, just like they lost miserably this evening. But hit subscribe to this channel. Let's go ahead and listen to a little bit of a precursor to tonight. It was very interesting. We'll get to why it was so interesting. One thing they said, one thing that was a big issue is that Biden said that he created jobs. He didn't create jobs. You had blue state Democratic Party governors shutting down the economy, which contributed directly to the deficit, the money that Trump spent. Trump did not want to shut down the economy for a year and a half. That was the Democratic Party. Again, you would have to be a disingenuous imbecile to believe that it was Trump that ran up the debt. It was Democrats that fancied themselves as the good, morally superior, as always, who wanted to give checks to make themselves feel good. And so you had stimulus after Democrats, bureaucrats, a public relations monstrosity that banned or didn't allow or shunned and disparaged anyone who disagreed with them. They shut down economic activity. The Democratic Party shut down economic activity, primarily, in my opinion, for political gain. And it was really nefarious and sinister, but that's why the debt went up. When you shut down economic activity in your state, you don't allow people to work. You don't allow people to go to restaurants even. You won't even allow people to go to the beach, okay, enjoy the sun like maniacs. They wouldn't allow anything. These were the Democrats that were hyperventilating and completely apoplectic as usual. And then they blame Trump for the deficit or the debt. It's like, well, yeah, that wasn't Trump. That was bureaucrats who shall remain nameless and other people. But let's continue here. Let's just talk about the debate beforehand with Jesse Waters.
Joe Biden's always wanted to be a Kennedy, but didn't have the charm, looks, or class. Alas, he's an elder statesman, or as the New York Times says, an elderly statesman, conjuring up thoughts of frailty and a fading spirit. The Times says, sure, a little foundation will keep him from looking frail and pasty, but what Biden really needs is to change his attitude and style. How does an 81-year-old change his attitude and style at all, let alone in a week? Well, the Times says tomorrow night, Biden should channel Betty White. Quote, Betty White got old, but she never seemed elderly on TV. She never lost that twinkle in her eye or that wicked wit.
The sheriff, I told him about me, how I kill men. Sleep with
Hanger / movie theater with Steven Spielberg's Lights production at Light Equipment and 16 camp counselors, channeling someone he's not.
Biden, it's going to be more how he looks, his energy, how he sounds, whether he's punchy, whether he finishes his thoughts instead of cutting himself off. I mean, a lot of this is just performance. It's theater camp for politicians.
I assume
it was an unmitigated disaster tonight, an unparalleled disaster. And I mean, I don't want to be mean or disrespectful, but you had one moment where there was a brain freeze. You had several moments where it was incoherent. You know, mashed potato brains was incoherent, and you had Trump poised, not. The insults were at an all-time low. He just told the truth that it was basically the worst presidency ever. I think George W. Bush was actually even worse than Biden, just because of the never-ending wars. But Biden voted for that. So, I mean, Biden's presidency has been an unmitigated failure, disaster. You'd have to be a fool to want more of what we've experienced. But anyway, let's continue.
When the elderly disappear from the public eye for a week and come back with a fresh and energized new look, they've had plastic surgery. Is Biden going to show up tomorrow night with a full head of hair and a big smile like Ryan Seacrest? He's had work before, so I'm not ruling it out. Either way, the theater kids have gotten a hold of Joe, and he only has 24 hours left to perfect the role because the kingmakers will be watching. Obama world and Clinton world have had enough and have waged a hostile takeover of the Biden campaign.
Hillary Clinton is going to replace mashed potato brains. I have been telling you this for about 5 years. And I actually wrote about this at one point in the Huffington Post. I got the years wrong, but eventually it'll happen. And what can I tell you? What can I tell you? I mean, this was a pretty bad performance. Biden, mashed potato, lied through his teeth, accused Trump of absurd quotes he never stated that were completely debunked. Okay. He looked bewildered. You know, Trump looked poised, and, you know, it's just unbelievable how anyone would not see this. But anyway, let's continue.
Is Donna Brazile handing out questions again? We don't know. But we do know the Ragin' Cajun is dying to play camp counselor.
You know, Trump is going to start, well, you take a drug test. And he should say, yeah, only if you take a rabies test. When the age question comes, and it's one that President Biden wants, say, it is true that I'm 81. Also, I'd like to wish my opponent happy belated 78th birthday. people can evaluate our mental dexterity as this goes on.
You can't punish.
It was an unmitigated, unparalleled, absolute catastrophe for Democrats tonight. It was terrible. Mashed potato did not perform well. I mean, every time he almost got Trump, every time he kind of jabbed at Trump, where he almost got some momentum lying about things that Trump said, every single time Trump just came back. And the funny thing was, CNN put them side by side, so you'd see mashed potato like looking befuddled, bewildered, this look of consternation on his. It was like Rip Van Winkle getting angry and upset. Imagine Trump against Rip Van Winkle or Father Time. And God bless Biden. Mashed potato did look pale, and I worry for him. I'm not joking. I'm not being mean or facetious. Like, I am actually worried for him. Democrats are vicious, unethical and despicable for allowing somebody who should not be in the Oval Office physically. The man should not have to deal with the stress and the strenuous daily life of being the president of this country. But Democrats wanted a weekend at Bernie's. They had somebody with a beating heart, and they did democracy, and so it's going to be a landslide November 5th. Hit subscribe to this channel if you're new.
Pump someone who isn't funny, full of zingers and quips, and expect them to perform. Look at Gutfeld. You can't turn an unfunny 81-year-old politician into a comedian in less than a week. So bad advice from Team Clinton. Team Obama's advice, the complete opposite.
What he can say is, look, this isn't about my future or his future. We're both at the ends of our careers here. This is about your future, and the question you have to ask is this person going to fight for me, or is this person going to fight for themselves? Yeah. And that is very, very clear.
It's a mess.
Democrats have been fighting for anyone other than people who live in this country. They fight for bureaucracies, global, multilateral alliances, organizations. They fight for people who, anyone who isn't, I guess, a part of this beautiful, amazing, gorgeous, awesome country. Let's just leave it at that. They do not put the national security, the financial, economic future, the foreign policy objectives that keep the country safe. They don't put the political values that all Americans of every background have historically above a very warped left-leaning ideology, which is not only unethical but borderline sinister, actually sinister in many ways. But let's continue.
The Clintons are telling him to be funny. The Obamas are telling him to be serious. It's like they're all in Joe's corner of the ring telling him duck, punch, counter, move, while Biden just stands still. Obama has Camp David wired, and the 16 camp counselors are reporting back to Barack that Joltin' Joe Biden isn't impressing them at debate prep. Can't nail his lines, can't maintain his energy.
Obama was a brilliant campaigner, excellent at debate. Trump is very, very good. Okay. Mashed potato was terrible for many reasons. He did not gain traction tonight on any of the lies he told pertaining to Trump's words. Trump was strategically less belligerent. He was less aggressive. He did not want to seem belligerent or aggressive or in your face. He was holding back. You could feel it. Everyone could feel it. I could feel it. He was like, I just want to. And every time Mashed Potato kind of like got at him, and they would have both of them side by side, you would see Mashed Potato say, "You said this," and then gain maybe a little bit of momentum, and then Trump would, in a brilliant manner, shut it down, say it's complete nonsense, you made it up, it was a fake quote, and then you would see Mashed Potato like out in the yonder, like what, like not knowing what to do. And he was pale, which Nixon versus JFK, the makeup, they should have, I mean, they should have gotten Trump's makeup artist for Biden, because he needed a tan tonight. He was too pale, far too pale. For a Democratic Party that doesn't like that skin complexion, he looked like, I mean, a piece of paper.
And it's leaked into the media.
What you need is a self-own. And I think in this moment, Joe Biden has to go out there with a self-own on the age thing. I mean, I'm so old, I may not make it through the next 90 minutes without needing to sit down and taking a sip of water, but I'll never disgrace the office of the presidency.
Except Trump never did disgrace the office of the presidency. He only did to liberals who despise him already. Okay? You have Biden with unmitigated, unparalleled disasters, both at home and in terms of foreign policy. That's disgracing the presidency. With Trump, we had record low poverty, fact. Record highs in household median income, fact. We had first president to step foot in North Korea. He allocated Trump more funding to historically black colleges and universities than any president ever. Made the funding to HBCUs permanent. Biden didn't do that. Biden helped write the crime bill, where his own son would have been sent to prison forever.
I'll never hand state secrets over to the enemy. I'll never.
And again, Trump never did that. That was according to an unnamed source. There's zero evidence Trump ever did any of that. On the contrary, Clinton had servers with top secret intel on them that, according to James Comey, potentially was hacked by the entire planet.
Called Vladimir Putin a really smart guy. I'll never frame a love letter from Kim Jong-un. I mean, he has to come in there and punch him in the face with his own boast. If Biden doesn't go in there and punch him in the face with his own things he's proud of, then the thing is lost before it starts.
If Nicole...
Mashed Potato was so bad tonight that, forget about any physicality. Nobody was, going after anyone's visage. It was such a demolishing, and what Trump did was actually, he wasn't really himself, which in a way was a good thing. He won handily, but he won because he was measured, composed, poised, and Mashed Potato was trying desperately to get under his skin. It didn't work.
Wallace is hearing Biden's having trouble standing at Camp David for 90 minutes. Betty White might not cut it. And the odds makers see it coming. Nate Silver, the Democrats' numbers guru, says the presidential race isn't a toss-up. Trump's odds of winning are now 2-1. Trump pulling away at way ahead in a new Quinnipiac poll, too. Up 4 points nationally on Joe. The voters even think Trump would do a better job at handling threats to democracy. The so-called dictator.
By the way, Democrats were doing so bad, they had to make a new category. They had to create a new voting category called democracy. As they tried in an unconstitutional manner to ban him on every ballot, and in an unconstitutional manner, a state cannot level an FEC crime at anyone. Biden said, "Oh, you're a convicted felon." Like, he brushed that off, like, you know what, you could have been, and by the way, it was complete nonsense. It'll be overturned, which it will be. 100% it'll be overturned by the Supreme Court or appeals courts. 100%.
Is up double digits on saving democracy. The issue that's the centerpiece of the Biden campaign. How'd that happen?
part of it the left has to own. They are aggressively anti-common sense. The Democrats keep running on this one idea, saying to the American people, you can't possibly think you can do worse than Donald Trump. And they keep saying, yes, we can. Yeah. Yes, we can. If you can't talk to those people.
I love Bill Maher. He's great, but Bill Maher is like so he doesn't realize the good things that Trump did. He doesn't accept or acknowledge that Trump had a great economy. Trump had a great foreign policy. We didn't have the wars and military strife and chaos and inflation and interest rates and, all the crime from Biden's policies, directly related to Biden's policies in our southern geographic region of our country. All the good things that Trump did, Bill Maher doesn't even acknowledge. And that's the thing. Like, Bill Maher is really smart, intelligent. He's comedic legend, and he's very smart man. But he does not accept, nor does he even acknowledge that Trump did great things. That it's completely rational to vote for Trump because his economy was fantastic, because of all of these things, and all the liberal sensibilities. Oh, Trump did this and that. Most of it is nonsense. Trump never tried to foment a rebellion, and he did concede. That's a fact. You don't see him at the White House lawn for the past 3 years. He left. He conceded immediately after, the day after January, which was a terrible day, but then he said, go peacefully and patriotically. He didn't tell people to commit crimes. And all of this nonsense about Trump, he tarnished this, he tarnished that. Democrats use their sensibilities as if they were reality. It's like, you know what? The average person voting for Trump, and he'll win in a landslide, not only knows very well that all of the quotes were attributed to Trump were absolute categorical patent lies, but it's like the average person voting for Trump bases Trump on the historic, traditional way you judge a presidency. Economy and foreign policy. Game, set, match. Trump does infinitely better than mashed potato brains. So I don't get why Bill Maher doesn't acknowledge the good things Trump does. But he's pretty on point on other issues.
You're just abandoning the country to half the people who are even worse, who are going to vote for Trump this next time, and they are. And he very likely will win. And then what are we going to do?
We don't know what to.
Then, with all due respect, Mr. Maher, and thank you so much for your super chat. T-Duck, Figglesnorp, T-Duck, thank you to the super chat. Thank you. Mr. Maher, we're going to have a great economy and a great foreign policy in the same manner that we did from 2016 until the last time, until 2020, okay? What took place, and Trump was right. More people lost their lives from you-know-what under Biden than Trump. And it's like this kind of alarmist, oh, well, what'll happen then? Well, we'll have a great economy. Democrats have been terrible at the economy. Absolutely terrible. And we're on the brink of a stock market collapse. Unfortunately, directly because of Biden's policies.
To expect. But they've been handing this man too many scripts. First, they tell him to be George Washington. Then they tell him to be FDR. Then they tell him to be half his age. Then they tell him to be a barroom brawler. Now Betty White. From George Washington to Betty White. Click.
Tonight was an unmitigated disaster for Democrats. Hillary Clinton is just waiting and saying, why not me? The Democrats don't rely on the candidate anyway. Okay, you'd have to be foolish to think that Democrats and media care about the specific candidate. You could look at I like Fetterman recently with his stances on foreign policy, but you could look at Fetterman when he first won. You could look at Biden when he first won. If Biden and Fetterman had were caught on a hot mic, okay, you'd have a better, at least a year ago, you'd have a better chance deciphering whale sounds. Okay, and so Democrats don't care. They don't care about the candidate. They care about the machine. Give somebody that will help the Democratic Party machine within this country. Hillary Clinton can raise the money. Nobody can raise more money than Hillary Clinton. Yeah, not even Trump can. And so I think Trump will defeat Hillary again. But I mean, she could come close. She could potentially win. I think that 90%. She has a 10% chance. Mashed potato has like a 1% chance. But let's continue here. Immunity's coming tomorrow, people.
All right, let's bring in Greg Jarrett, Fox News legal analyst, to weigh in on this. Hey, Greg, what are your thoughts? What's your reaction?
Well, presidents already have immunity from civil lawsuits as long as their actions fall within the outer perimeter of official duties. That was a decision by the High Court 4 decades ago, and it's quite possible, I think, that the justices will extend that civil immunity protection to criminal prosecutions because the exact same reasoning applies. If there was no immunity, the chilling effect on presidential decision makings would trigger paralysis. America would be ruled by a committee of lawyers. So if the Supreme Court does grant, let's call it immunity with conditions, then they'd have to remand Trump's case back to the trial court to decide whether those conditions have been met. Another possibility here is the High Court will say, well, there should be some immunity for presidents. We'll give you a little bit of guidance, but we're sending it to the lower court to figure it out. The Supreme Court has done that in numerous cases. But either way, the process will be time-consuming, briefs, court hearings, a further appeal. So it would seem impossible that a trial could take place before the election.
Couple of things, Greg. So they'll hear the arguments, but they're also setting up precedent for the future. And we know that there is some immunity, as you mentioned, but will they get into specific arguments about Donald Trump in particular, January 6th, what he said, documents back to Mar-a-Lago took while he was still president technically? Or will this be a general talk about what is too far? If, for example, a president does an Aaron Burr and shoots Alexander Hamilton, had he not been vice president, that will never, you'll never be immune from that. That's extreme behavior.
Yeah, I suspect that they will not get into the Trump case because the Supreme Court, when they took this case, framed the question very broadly, whether presidents should enjoy some form of immunity. So, I tend to think they don't want to get into the nitty gritty of the Trump case itself, even though that's the reason it was brought to the High Court.
All right. When you lawyers often talk about the outer perimeter of presidential action, official duties, what is it? Where is the line of the outer perimeter?
Well, it's very subjective. The fact is this arose back, I believe it was 1982. Nixon had already left office, but he'd been sued by a guy by the name of Fitzgerald. And the Supreme Court eventually took the case, and they said, look, there's got to be some protection for presidents. Otherwise, they won't be able to do their job. They'll be defending themselves in a myriad of civil lawsuits over every decision they make that affects any individual. As I say, the same sort of reasoning applies to criminal cases. What I worry about is, a president who has to make a very immediate and important national security decision. Let's say take out a terrorist leader. That could be described as murder. Should a president be charged then with murder when he leaves office over something like that, when he's protecting America's national security interests? I don't think anybody would say so.
Probably
there's got to be some immunity here.
Probably the best example of that, of course, is when President Obama used a drone to take out a 16-year-old American citizen in Yemen. Basically, what we're talking about here is one branch of the government either limiting or basically eliminating another branch of government.
Yeah, I wouldn't call it eliminating, but defining restrictions about what you can and cannot do in terms of bringing a criminal action. And of course, it's propitious now because there's 4 indictments criminally against Donald Trump, which many critics, myself included, believe were politically motivated.
By the way, Mashed Potato tried to hit Trump on the fact that he still has more criminal cases. Like, Trump totally brushed it off, said they were politically motivated, told him that the conviction will be overturned. See, Mashed Potato almost got political points, almost here and there. He was close. He was close to getting, but he was like so tired and fatigued, and he looked like very pale. They could have put makeup on him. I have a feeling Democrats are just trying to jettison, cut bait. And, I think that Hillary Clinton, God bless her, is going to, and every communist and socialist and left-leaning progressive will dutifully and with energy and enthusiasm vote for Hillary Clinton. I know the mentality. Every left-leaning, progressive, far-left, socialist pundit, YouTuber, pundit, writer, you will have people at far-left, communist, socialist publications voting for Hillary Clinton. The left is an entire racket. It doesn't really matter the ideology. It matters the political power. They will all circle the wagons for Madam Secretary. I know this because I used to be the biggest Bernie Sanders booster on the internet. Thank God I left an actual cult, the Democratic Party, and now I want a good economy and a great president and a great foreign policy and somebody who stands up to, bureaucracies like Trump does. Trump, we saw tonight, has to be one of the great Americans in history. Biden talked about presidential historians. These were liberal Democrats. There are many presidential historians who are conservative who think Trump is absolutely amazing. Trump routinely, historically, always ranks among like Reagan and Lincoln among Republicans. So he is beloved, Trump, among Republicans. He's admired among the entire country, really. There is a base of rabid, apoplectic, wonderful, morally superior, highly educated liberal Democrats who hyperventilate at everything they don't like, and they despise Trump. Why is Trump so despised by the Democrats or by specific, wonderful, morally superior, highly educated liberals? One reason, and one reason only. It has nothing to do with his personality. It has nothing to do with his words or his policies. He defeated Clinton. That's it. They want political power. He took that from them. 3 Supreme Court justices because they railroaded and cheated Bernie Sanders in a primary that was a complete farce. And Bernie Sanders was probably in on the whole thing. Probably, maybe not, but in on the result. And then he said, Vladimir, I don't want your help. I don't want your help, Vladimir. He just helped create the new Cold War and McCarthy era Red Scare nonsense. Then he talks about like a good socialist, all the good things. I made a big mistake. If I could go back, believe me, they're embarrassed of me. I'm embarrassed that I even wrote anything about Bernie Sanders. I was the biggest Bernie Sanders booster on the internet, according to the Huffington Post. I was the unofficial scribe of Sanders' most hardcore voters, according to the Washington Post. My writing in The Hill, the Huffington Post, Salon, a lot of other publications was read hundreds of thousands of times, literally. No big deal. It is what it is. Not really a source of pride for me. I know that people on the left who still remember me find it embarrassing that I was ever on the left. Believe me, the feeling is mutual. I'm embarrassed myself. Trump was a great president in terms of the economy and foreign policy. He was great for all Americans. And I wouldn't vote for a candidate that cheated Bernie Sanders the way Democrats did. Okay, or if Trump cheated DeSantis, or if he had a laptop full of bribery and graft, or if he had private servers, or if he, voted for endless wars, I wouldn't vote for Trump. It's not the cult is not the Trump supporter. It's actually the Democrat that votes for, Weekend at Bernie's. The lights are on, but nobody's home. So anyway, the point is, ladies and gentlemen, if you don't vote for Trump, I mean, we'll just leave it at this. I'll let you go, and we'll have a wonderful, amazing constitutional victory tomorrow with immunity. I'll be 2 for 2, and I'll be 3 for 3 when the absurd unconstitutional guilty verdict is overturned by the Supreme Court or lower courts. But you'd have to be a complete buffoon and imbecile to vote for anyone but Trump. I love RFK Jr., by the way. I think he should have been on the debate stage. Love RFK Jr., but Trump is what we need. And you'd have to be pretty clueless on foreign policy and either wealthy, and if you're wealthy and you are in a bubble and you don't really understand how like average people, have to deal with inflation, high interest rates, crime, you're probably going to vote for Biden. But if you understand how daily life has changed in the past 4 years under this administration, you vote for Trump. I'm voting for Trump because, I'm an American citizen who wants a better country. I want a stronger, more prosperous country. That's why I'm voting for Trump. I don't put ideology above, achievement. And that's why I went from Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders, I mean, not only did not have the courage to address the fact that he was railroaded. He never said, the Democrats were unfair to me. He never said that. All he said was, Vladimir, I don't want your help. I mean, you have to have at least a little bit of backbone in life, at least a little bit. And Bernie did not, my God almighty. He didn't even acknowledge that they railroaded him, And whatever. The point is, you need Trump for a number of reasons. I want a better economy and a better foreign policy, an anti-war, anti-endless military conflict foreign policy. If you care about peace on earth, you vote for Trump. Anyway, hit subscribe to this channel. I'll see you tomorrow, everybody. Be here when they announce partial. He doesn't need total. Partial immunity for Trump. He dissolves the special counsel immediately when he becomes president. It's off to the races, people. And, the country is going to rebound with Trump. It will. God bless America. God bless you. Around the world,